Hey, this is Edward today, and I want to talk about buying businesses today, and especially how to find businesses for sale that you can get into so that you can buy a business. Because the first function you're going to need to always solve when you're buying a business is finding the opportunity for sale. And in reality, there's only two ways on how you can find businesses for sale. There's either businesses for sale on market, which are essentially sold by brokers that represent the sellers, and there's businesses for sale that are sold by sellers, which are represented by the owner when they're selling the company. So it's a matter of understanding how to get in front of these two different opportunities and how to find some of these two opportunities out of a market. Um, and then it's also a matter of understanding what's your current situation so that you can choose a better channel for yourself. Or in some cases, if you have a very particular situation, you can do both at the same time. So when we're looking at broker deals versus off-market deals or on-market deals versus off-market deals, what you got to understand is financing is going to be a bit different. The process is going to be a bit different. The approach is going to be a bit different. The education process from you to the seller is going to be a bit different. And the expectations are going to be a bit different from the broker seller to you. So just keep that in mind. Every time you're changing a channel, things are going to change. You need to understand how they work in order to find some of these businesses. So the first channel, the fastest way, is to look at your buy box, look at what you want to buy, what kind of businesses you want to buy, and then find brokers locally that actually sell some of these particular listings. And a good tool to use to be able to find some of these brokers is called IBBA.org. So if you're in US specifically, you would use a very this tool, or if you're in a different country, you're going to use a very particular tool that's similar to this one, which essentially lists uh, brokers in market that are potentially specializing in different industries or different kinds of listings. And you can get in front some of these individuals by telling them about the fact that you exist as a buyer, you want to buy a business in that market, and they have their contact info, their phone number, email, and such, so you can get in front of them and talk to them about your criteria. And you don't need to kind of limit yourself to one broker. I've used to have clients that talk to hundreds and hundreds of brokers every over 30 to 60 days to be able to look at different kinds of industries and look at different kinds of deals because they were a little bit more agnostic. So don't be afraid to be able to build very good relationships with the best local people, best local brokers, and best kind of intermediaries that are selling businesses. So this is kind of a fastest way to getting in front of companies. Why? Because if you would just get in front of a broker, you'd sign an NDA, you'd be able to get financials fairly quickly. That way, you can look at a deal, model a deal, and make an offer. So by far the fastest path to finding deals. Now, the flip side of that is a lot of our broker deals are not very good deals from a perspective of value and expectations. So you got to be careful. If you're applying to a lot of these deals online, you need to actually understand what does the typical value look like in this industry? What are the multiples in these industries? And is this deal going to be bankable from a lending perspective? Because again, if you're going to talk to brokers and you're trying to get a deal done with a broker, in most cases you're going to pay um, a little bit over market. And plus, on top of that, you're going to need to get financing, meaning you're not going to be able to just come and talk to a broker and do 100% seller finance deals because it doesn't typically work like that. You're going to need to put some money down. You're going to need to go and raise some sort of commercial loan. It doesn't matter what market you're in. Typically, that's how you're going to close a deal with a broker. So it's going to be, again, a down payment from you, a commercial loan or a government-backed loan, and you're going to be able to put some money together to go and pay this business and maybe a little bit of seller financing. So most people who approach the market that are coming in, they think they're going to be able to see a broker deal and do some sort of creative financing thing, which is not going to work in most cases. So again, you need to have proper expectations and you need to understand how to play the game and what's going to happen with a broker. So you're going to go for loads of opportunities. You're not going to just go for two, five, seven opportunities and suddenly you're going to find the best deal possible. It's not going to happen like that. We've had clients who've looked at hundreds of deals and none of them made sense. We didn't want to pursue those deals, so we'd rather say a lot more no's to a lot of these deals than just get into a bad deal with some of our clients. We want to make them money, and we don't want to put them in bad opportunities for themselves. But client one needs to be able to add value to the deal. That way, he's going to be able to get lending. And then if he's going to raise more equity from equity partners, he's going to need to show how he's going to be able to pay them as well based on what cash flow. So again, we want to get into strong businesses with strong management teams in place so that we're not getting into those issues, right? And a lot of these broker deals don't really deliver that, so we need to go for a lot more volume. Now, the problem becomes locally, there's a certain amount of volume of deals in a particular industry. So let's say you're going in air conditioning. Well, if you're going in air conditioning and you want to buy businesses in air conditioning in a particular area, and let's say your area doesn't have a big of a population, it doesn't have as many businesses for sale and as many businesses in general, what happens then is there's less brokers that sell these kinds of businesses. So you have less deal flow available to you. So again, you got to be smart about it because you might be able to find complementary business models that fit air conditioning or might add value to your thesis. And you might go and look into them and look into different brokers that sell those kinds of businesses, like for example, plumbing or electrical or something that could add additional value. And then the second part is even if you don't have as many brokers and you can't really find somebody today on a broker deal, you can also explore finding off-market opportunities, which is directly reaching out to the seller, directly reaching out to the business owner that's potentially going to consider selling. So, for example, going back to air conditioning, what if you could build a list of all the air conditioning companies and build an infrastructure, a marketing infrastructure to be able to email all these companies and send them a letter and call them and essentially follow up with them until you get a reply from some of these companies on if they want to sell or not. At any particular point in time, there's going to be a percentage of people who are considering to sell at any given point in time or any market. It's either 2%, 3%, 4%, or 5%. It really depends on the year and of a time and of a market and different things. But what you could do is you could always reach out to some of these businesses because if you're just relying on, let's say, a few brokers sending you deals, you're going to be quite limited. You're going to need to wait around until you find some of your best opportunities. While you're doing that, you can also reach out to some of these businesses locally and maybe build relationships with some of these owners to find a better deal. So again, the best buyers I see are using both of these systems, both of these processes. As far as off market goes, the expectation is a bit different because the seller is not fully yet ready to sell on day one with you when they get to know you. They're gonna start thinking about this. They're gonna start preparing some of the financials. They're gonna start preparing some of the descriptions of business processes they use and how they're gonna sell to you and so forth. So not everything is gonna be ready and clean and ready to go for you versus a broker when the broker already has all the financials, has all the numbers. They can show you a lot of the basic things you need to see to be able to decide if you want to move forward to create an offer. With a seller that's off market, you also need to educate them on what the process looks like from your perspective of your preliminary analysis, your negotiations, your offers. You're going to go and raise capital. This is how raising capital works. So you need to give them an expectation on how you're going to be able to help them. Otherwise, they're not going to trust you. They're not going to want to work with you. They're going to look for somebody else to help you. So again, those are the paths. You should do both of them. There's a lot of intricacies doing these paths. And if you want to get more help, just DM me on LinkedIn. I can give you more setup process and more intricacies as far as the on-market stuff if you want to get more on-market stuff. And if you want to get more granular as far as setting up your off-market process, just DM me on LinkedIn and we'll talk about it on a call. Thank you for watching. Bye.